Alright, hi there people, welcome back to VHS Crazy. We got a real VHS type movie here, and you may not get what I mean by VHS type movie. I mean the kind of movie that you're only really gonna want to watch on VHS. Like, who watches this stuff on Netflix? That's right, today we're talking What Women Want with Mel Gibson, Helen Hunt, one of the biggest rom-coms ever from 2001. Let's get right into the psychic woman action here.
Hello? Popcorn delivery?
Put a little weekend in your week. Rent a video.
So, What Women Want. I remember seeing this one pretty early on. This is one of my faves. I don't know, when I was 7, something about seeing Mel Gibson dress up in makeup and nail polish just was funny to me. I don't know. I had a weird sense of humor when I was 7, but this is one of my favorites. I remember watching this, really early on. So, take that how you will. But I just remember seeing this movie. I remember thinking of it as a very modern type, metropolitan type movie, which it very much is. It's still very modern despite being made in 2001. The characters are modern. They got cell phones. They got computers. And it's very interesting to see the proliferation of technology in the early 21st century. That said, Mel Gibson is one of those actors who, along with Charlie Sheen, I suppose you could say, is one of the biggest jokes of the 90s. He had his heyday where he seemed nearly unstoppable, but then it all just went crashing down, and today Mel Gibson is about as likely to land a successful lead role as Charlie Sheen, I would say. And I would say Mel Gibson has slightly more talent than Charlie Sheen. He's okay in Maverick. He's okay in a lot of his roles. What Women Want really is no exception. There's nothing amazing about a Mel Gibson role, but you know when you see it. You know Mel Gibson when you see him. You know his big goofy demeanor and his big goofy bravado and his big voice and how he presents himself. It's a whole thing. It's the Mel Gibson thing. I would say What Women Want doesn't work because Mel Gibson is the main guy. I mean, that doesn't ensure your movie's gonna be good, because he really is not like Brad Pitt. He's not the kind of actor who you go, oh yeah, this guy's got a presence. He's not Brad Pitt. He's not Tom Cruise. He's Mel Gibson. So, like, on the one hand, this movie has really, really weak protagonist who is just flat and boring. And, like, Mel Gibson, he can bring some spark, some charisma to a role, but he would never be my first choice. If I was in charge of casting a movie, I never choose Mel Gibson, even back when he was popular, because he's just not the sort of actor who, I guess he kind of fits into this role because he's playing an emasculated misogynist, and for the first 30 minutes, before he gets his psychic powers, I completely buy it, because I can just see Mel Gibson being that way, being a man's man, being in the man cave and doing all the man shit and playing pool and cards with the boys and dealing out poker and, oh dang, it's fantasy football time, I'm a man's man. I can see Mel Gibson doing that, so I guess maybe that's the reason why they hired him for this part.
Man is the leader of the pack.
He is pretty perfect in that regard. He's probably one of the straightest men alive. I don't think you could get less queer than Mel Gibson. I mean, there's nothing effeminate about him. This is a very heterocentric, cis-normative type movie, so if you believe that gender is just a societally constructed thing, or, you're a different gender now than the one you're assigned at birth, then you probably won't find much in this movie, because it divides the entirety of humanity up between two genders. There's the women, and then there's the men. Come to think of it, that would have been interesting to see in like a sequel or something, like if Mel Gibson gets psychic powers and then like someone is transitioning from being a man to a woman or whatever, like do the psychic powers Like, do the psychic thoughts get stronger as they get infused with more estrogen or what? You know, that could be interesting to see, but we don't see too much gender study type stuff in this movie. It's not a thought-provoking film. The closest we get is the bit where Mel Gibson says he's gay, which is pretty funny given the lead up to that bit. And the fact that, you know, he's like the straightest guy alive. So that's pretty funny. Also, just the juxtaposition of him in nail polish and pantyhose, considering he's like sporting this like six-pack and all this chest hair. It's such a weird juxtaposed image of him like with nail polish and all this and like waxed legs, but at the same time he just looks so like straight and so cis. It's pretty funny.
And know what you do to me.
So that it does that well. I mean, I don't think you're going to be offended by this if you're gay or something, because it's not. It's a really feminist movie. I do like that. It's directed by Nancy Meyers, who's also behind Private Benjamin, probably the funniest female-led comedy of all time. Also, Father of the Bride Part 1 and Father of the Bride Part 2, both of which are really freaking funny. And I have to say, this is the weakest of her filmography. I mean, you start with like Private Benjamin, there's really no getting to that level of hilarity again. Also, Goldie Hawn's a really good actress. I don't know if I've ever said this before, but like Goldie Hawn is probably the funniest female comedian ever, just based on Private Benjamin. Funny frickin' movie. What Women Want, I'd say, benefits from being directed by a woman. Obviously, a movie about the thoughts of women is going to work the best if it's directed by a woman who gets what women are thinking and whatnot. Also, like I said, the premise. It's a very original and fun premise, and they do a lot of things with it. They really milk the potential out of it.
Hear what women think.
Whoa, lighten up with that aftershave, buddy.
I'm talking personal, private stuff. The stuff that nobody on earth is supposed to hear. I hear that stuff.
I think that's something you don't see in movies much these days, especially not rom-coms, which have lately become very formulaic and dull. You don't see premises like, what if there's this misogynist guy and suddenly he gets zapped out of nowhere and he's just magically able to read every woman's mind, you know? No one thinks this anymore. No one has an imagination anymore. So, you know, I think we need more rom-coms like that, you know, because, I mean, it's just not interesting unless it has a fun premise like that. That's such a fun premise. Now, back from Twister, we saw her in Twister. It's Helen Hunt. I think Helen Hunt is actually better in this than Mel Gibson. And unlike in Twister, she's able to show off some of her range. I really like that. Helen Hunt is a good female lead. She perfectly encapsulates the up-and-coming marketing executive at the ad agency where Mel Gibson works. And of course, you know, this is around the time when women really started getting involved in the business world, and the busy business boys had to deal with it. Mel Gibson has to think, oh my gosh, I'm being outperformed by women.
So, as our friends in Hollywood say, let's cut to the chase.
But over the course of the movie, he grows and has a whole character arc, and he learns to start giving credit to women where it's due and start respecting women. I like that. This is a good film to kind of ease someone out of misogyny if they've fallen down the red pill rabbit hole, because it kind of, you know, says, you know, women are people too and they have thoughts, and maybe it's time to start respecting women instead of treating them like objects. I must say, Mel Gibson's portrayal as an enlightened feminist is almost good enough to make me believe it. But like I said, I think he's a pretty big misogynist in real life. I mean, I don't buy for a second that, like, in real life, Mel Gibson's gonna care about women. He's freaking Mel Gibson. But, you know, I gotta say, I do like Helen Hunt in this. She's really good. She's a good actress if she's given something to do. In Twister, she's not. She has nothing to do in Twister. But this is probably one of her best movies. You know, I think she's underrated as far as that goes, as well as like Anne Hitch and I don't know, a lot of 90s actresses don't get their salt these days, but Helen Hunt, for what it's worth, is a competent actress. I think the romantic bits are pretty good. They're pretty good all in all. The back of the case here says, a very funny movie, 2 thumbs up, from Ebert and Roper at the movies. Mel Gibson and Helen Hunt light up the screen in this winning romantic comedy about a man who thinks he's God's gift to women until he hears what they're really thinking. Gibson plays Nick Marshall, a swinging bachelor scaling the corporate ladder of one of Chicago's hottest ad agencies. But Nick's fast-track success is derailed when the agency overlooks him and hires beautiful Darcy McGuire as the new creative director. As Nick's prospects begin to dim, he is jolted by a freak accident that leaves him with an extraordinary ability. He can hear what women think and want. Using his newfound gift to his advantage, Nick schemes to undermine Darcy by listening to her thoughts and stealing her ideas until something happens that he didn't account for. He hears his own inner voice and realizes he's in love. Co-starring Marissa Tomei, What Women Want is a laugh-out-loud celebration of the sexes. It's a very binary movie. Like I said, the closest it gets to even mentioning that there's anything besides straight people is when Mel Gibson is under suspicion of being gay. But that part's pretty funny. It's not offensive or anything. And if you're into a nice straight hetero rom-com, then there's the one for you, because not every romance has got to be a gay romance, I suppose. One of the problems is it really doesn't have that much interesting to say about the genders. I wish it explored the subject a little more, because, after you hear what women want, it's kind of just like, it's just like what men are thinking, but slightly more feminine, which, I can assume that. Believe it or not, what women want isn't that interesting or out there or that crazy. They're just like, oh yeah, so-and-so, because they're just people. So, it could have done a little more exploration of the differences between men and women. Obviously, we never get to hear what the men of the movie are thinking, so who knows. But I do think, Mel Gibson, perfectly competent actor. If you slop him in something, he can make it work. He can. It's uncanny to see him like this popular and this big, because he's never gonna be in a movie this big again. This made like $370 million on a budget of like $70 million, so it made like $300 million. Really financially successful movie, but not that good, not like an amazing movie, but like a competent movie, a movie that for all intents and purposes is perfectly watchable, possibly even a romp, possibly even fun to engage with and check out, Of course, you all knew that eventually I was gonna get to this, the horrible remake / sequel / reboot / whatever with Tracy Morgan, What Men Want. I remember seeing the trailer to this thing in theaters, and I thought it was a joke.
Time to break that glass ceiling.
Like, it starts out, and then you hear that you can hear men's thoughts, and I was like, this is such a ripoff of What Women Want. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a sequel to What Women Want? This looks so bad. And it's so bad. They're just remaking all these 90s comedies now. And I guess that's a trend that happens, but my gosh, I remember seeing the trailer of What Women Want, or for What Men Want, and it just doesn't work, cause I guess maybe if the main character was a misandrist who thought women were better than men, then maybe it would work, but she's not. So the point of What Women Want is that Mel Gibson starts out as this disgusting chauvinist pig who treats the women in his life like dirt, and over the course of the movie has, growth and development and learns to respect the women in his life, even going so far as to save one from suicide, which is a very well-handled and tactful scene. Then you got What Men Want with Tracy Morgan. Don't get me wrong, the guy's hilarious on everything that's not 30 Rock or What Men Want. Brian Fellows is freaking hilarious. I don't know why Tracy Morgan isn't in more good comedies, but What Men Want does not look like the sort of thing that can live up to the success of this one. Just because, you only need to do this movie once, because just flipping the genders makes no sense, because that's like a good example is the remake of Overboard. I remember when that shit came out, it looked so bad, because instead of this rich woman treating the guy like dirt, which is a funny, reversal of the traditional gender norms, it's just a rich guy treating a poor woman like dirt. That's the remake of Overboard, and it just doesn't work because the original positions the genders in such a way that they create dramatic tension. But when you switch them back, it just looks stupid, and it's not empowering for women, which is what a good rom-com should be. Like, What Women Want is empowering because Mel Gibson learns to be sensitive and connect with his effeminate side, and at the end, even though he loses his psychic powers, he can still, gauge how a woman is feeling, because he's come to accept that it's not really that hard to just treat everyone like people equally across the board and just respect women. That's a good, solid message. But I think the sequel, What Men Want, just kind of treats it like a Freaky Fridays wackadoodle situation, like it's a sitcom or something. And there's just no heart there, There's no oomph. There's no pathos, what if I could hear inside my husband's head? Oh wow, he's fantasizing about having sex with other women? Crazy. What a revelation.
I should tap that ass.
Honestly, it's a stupid premise. And is this just a fever dream? Or was there a sequel to the Tom Hanks movie Big? It was called Little. What was that all about? Did that even happen, or what? I swear I saw a trailer for that. Does that exist? These movies just come out and I don't even know if they exist or not, but seriously, stop trying to remake 90s comedies or 80s comedies and just make it opposite day with them, please. Just make your own premise. It's not that hard. Just make up an original premise for once. No one needs the opposite of Tom Hanks' Big. Now it's Little. What? What does that even mean? How do you opposite Big? What's the point? It's so stupid. And What Men Want is just another horrible example of this route. I'd say the new Overboard is also just another horrible example of this route. Stop remaking these comedies. Just give it a rest. Come up with your own ideas and quit the repetition. It gets old. I think 90s comedies and that sort of thing get a weird type of revival, and I don't know what that's all about. But What Men Want looks like a complete failure in every sense of the word, just trying to capitalize off this popular movie that isn't even that popular anymore. This came out in, 2001? That's when the VHS says it is, I don't know, 2000. It's 20 years old. You're trying to make a Tracy Morgan version? Come on. Luckily, it looks like Tracy Morgan is now going to be in the hilarious Twins sequel, triplets or whatever, with Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger. That actually sounds funny. That actually sounds like it'll work with the premise of the original. I don't know what it is about, like, taking a scenario like What Women Want and being like, hey, what if we remove the W and the O and we make it What Men Want? Wouldn't that be crazy? No, come on. Nobody needs a sequel to this. There is actually another remake, which I only found out about on Wikipedia, which is the Chinese version. And that sounds pretty interesting, actually, because, you know, over in China they have different ideas about gender and whatnot. So it'd be kind of interesting to check out the Chinese version. It looks kind of interesting. So, not to say this franchise has no potential for remakes or whatever. The Chinese version actually looks like it might be kind of good.
听一首歌吗？你唱我就听。
Every time
He could read every woman's mind. Based on the Hollywood blockbuster starring Mel Gibson and Helen Hunt. What Women Want.
What Men Want looks like total trash, though, just bad. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, the Chinese version looks like it might be okay. Before I give my final rating on the movie, I think it's important to consider two key factors. A, Alan Alda's in this. And Alan Alda is one of those comedians who's so unfunny that he instantly sucks the life out of any movie he's in. Alan Alda is painfully boring. He is like an instant sedative. After seeing him in 600 plus episodes of MASH, I don't think there's an easier way to fall asleep than to listen to the droning tones of Alan Alda, who thinks he's the funniest guy on earth just because he can make an observation about, I don't know, aspirin or something. Alan Alda ruins this movie way more than Mel Gibson ever could. Alan Alda is a complete downer. He just pulls the movie into the dregs.
I know, I'm an animal. I don't know what came over me.
However, there is something that really weighs it out, like a scale, and that is the girl who plays Mel Gibson's daughter. She is excellent. She even better than Helen Hunt. She's the best actress in the movie, hands down. Her performance is excellent. It's spectacular. Like, she completely owns it in every scene she's in. It's amazing. She's great. She's so good. She has so much potential. I don't know what she was in after this, but she's really good. The dressing scene at the mall, like, I know, you know, makeover montage things are a cliche or whatever now, but it's got to be one of the best of them. You know, the scene where she tries on all the dresses and Mel Gibson's spinning around down the chair. It's really wacky and fun and cute, and you know, taking this idea and getting the potential out of it. I think the actress who plays his daughter in this is actually really good. Best actor in the movie, hands down. Wins over all the female actors, wins over all the male actors. Best role in the movie. She's really good.
I'm sorry, go on.
And he goes, well, the limo and the rim and the ducks and all cost me murder.
So, you know, on the one hand you got Alan Alda, on the other you got her, so it kind of balances out. So, you know, I mean, Helen Hunt's okay, but like the daughter's just, I don't know, she's just a really good actress. I completely buy every scene. And next to her, like, Mel Gibson looks like a cardboard chocolate bar. He's just so bland, and he's like a I don't even know, he's like a vanilla wafer. He's dry and stale, you know. I mean, she just brings it. It's great. Like, excellent actress, but even better than Helen Hunt. So I'd say that Alan Alda makes the movie substantially less funny than it would be without him, but the daughter character is so well written, and the actress who plays her is so good. So after all that, what's my final rating of What Women Want? With Mel Gibson, Helen Hunt, and oh yeah, it's got Marisa Tomei too. She's okay. You know, I do feel kind of like adding a side chick onto this story kind of defeats the purpose, but I guess it's kind of groundbreaking in that it talks about having you know, having kind of an open relationship. You know, it's not like an uptight movie or anything in that regard. It's pretty progressive. So I'm gonna give it 4.5 stars.
Here at Sloan Curtis, we've always prided ourselves on our strategic thinking. Now it's time for us to step up and once again prove ourselves creatively in the marketplace.
There's nothing in it that's remotely offensive. It is, by and large, a very feminist movie, and it's all about Mel Gibson getting demasculated and getting kind of metaphorically castrated.
Why don't you take me seriously and give me some real work to do? Oh yeah, I remember why. Because I have a vagina!
And that's a fun plot. I would go for that. And Alan Alda brings it down from being like a perfect 5 stars. And again, 5 stars on this series is not like the greatest movie. It's just a movie that would be excellent to watch on VHS, amazing to watch on VHS, but I can't give it 5 stars because I feel like Alan Alda just knocks it down half a point. It's not 4 stars. It's not like just good. It is a really good movie, but Alan Alda just I just don't like Alan Alda. So, it's not because of Mel Gibson. Like I said, he is convincing as a misogynist. I don't know about him being convincing as a feminist, but he is convincing as a misogynist. So I can't give the movie, you know, I can't knock the movie down for that. Yeah, 4.5 points, I'd say. 4.5 stars on What Women Want. What do you think of What Women Want? It's kind of a weird movie. They don't come like this. Oh my gosh, Dean Cundy's the director of photography on this. Geez, Dean Cundy's on like everything. How many movies is Dean Cundy the director of photography for? Like, if you told me and I hadn't seen the same guy who did Halloween also did this, I would not have believed it. But like, geez, his cinematography is excellent. Anyway, so yeah, that's my thoughts on What Women Want. Fun premise, really fun premise, really fun idea for a 90s movie. I don't think they get like this anymore. They just gotta regurgitate it. What men want? No, come on. What women want? Let's hear what the women want for once, okay? Anyway, yeah. What Women Want is pretty fun, and you'll probably like it. It's a fun movie. But tell me what you think, because seriously, this is kind of a divisive movie. I don't know. Tell me what you think down in the comments. You know, it's always confusing to make a feminist or, you know, movie about the battle of the sexes. You know, it'll get a little controversial somewhat. So, you know, everyone probably has their own feelings on this one, but I find it ultimately kind of harmless and a little cheesy, but, you know, ultimately it tries, and it's a perfectly sweet, acceptable, neat, fun movie that if you haven't seen, check out. You'll probably really like it. And really fun premise. So there's that.
That's it? No other thoughts?
What do you mean? You feeling all right, though?
That's going to do it for this installment of VHS Crazy. I suggest writing to Nicholas Cicada, 1424 Columbine Street, number 1, Denver, Colorado, 80206. If you want to see more of these reviews in the future, keep them pumping out. If you're into romances, geez, what do I got if you're into romances in terms of comics? I suggest getting the Orwellians on videotape. It's a pretty romantic endeavor. Or by college buddies, because there's a lot of romance type stuff in there if you're into romance. Anyway, that's going to do it for now. I think this is a good addition to any VHS library. So check it out. Give it a shot. What Women Want, pretty good. All right, I'm gonna be out. How's the catchphrase go? Sayonara, suckers.